Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I am Judah. In the past, I may have mentioned that I am a fan of Asian cinema, particularly the Korean cinema I enjoy quite a bit. Their humor is a little more on the slapstick side, so I can see how some people would maybe think it was cheesy and a little over the top, and I get that, but I do enjoy their cinema in general. Now, I know that India is part of Asia, but I gotta say that I'm not a big fan of. So over the weekend, I watched a horror comedy called Sleep. It came out in 2023. It's kind of just now gaining popularity over here in the States. Let's watch this trailer so we can all be on the same page and see what it's about.
일어나.
새벽만 되면 쿵쾅거리는 소리가 들려서 어떨 땐 비명 소리도. 오빠!
누가 들어왔어?
I can already tell you I made a huge mistake when watching this. As soon as it started, I noticed that it said dubbed version, and I should have switched it to subs, but I didn't, and I watched it dubbed, and already, just watching this trailer, which I have not seen the trailer, I can already tell that it was a huge mistake, and I would have enjoyed this movie so much more had I watched it in subs instead of dubs. And I knew from being an anime fan, I knew that subs are always better than dubs, and I just didn't take the time to switch it.
왜 그래?
렘 수면 행동 장애를 앓고 있다라는 뜻이에요.
Okay. Initially, the wife really annoyed me. The wife. You don't even know what's going on. I haven't let you watch the trailer. Sorry. Okay, let's get back to this trailer.
고칠 수 있는 거죠?
네.
문제가 생기면 함께 극복하는 게 부부야.
침대 밑에 이렇게 붙여놓으래. 붙은 건 신랑한테 붙었는데 데리고 온 사람은 그쪽이야.
쭉 지켜봤다고? 안 자고? 수진아!
오빠?
너 왜 그래 진짜?
조용히 살고 싶다. 너랑만 단둘이.
왜 그래 진짜?
As I was saying when I interrupted the trailer, initially I found the wife annoying. She seemed very whiny, like she couldn't take care of herself. I found it very frustrating. But that kind of, I forgot about it eventually. But at the beginning, it just seemed very, very whiny, and I did not like it at all. Again, what a mistake not watching it with the dubs. I mean, with the subs instead of the dubs. Such a mistake. If you watch this movie, definitely watch it with the subtitles. People, the actors, the voice actors that do the subs, you know, they do their best. Some are better than others, but hearing the original actor's voice, even if you don't understand what they're saying, and reading it is so much better. It's so much better. It also helps disconnect you from reality in a way that you're feeling like you're being submersed into a culture that you're not familiar with. That's always helpful. Big mistake on my part. It probably would have upped my score maybe 1 or 2 points when it came down to it. This was hailed as a comedy horror. I gotta say, I didn't find any of it humorous. There's a couple times things happened and I thought, is this why they said it's a comedy horror? And I think that's a bad sign. If somebody's coming at you and saying, hey, this is a comedy, and you're watching it, you're not laughing and you're saying, maybe this is the reason why, that doesn't seem like a good, good selling point to me. I shouldn't have to be looking for what the funny points are. They should be very obvious. I just wasn't getting a whole lot of humor out of this one. Again, just moments when I thought, maybe this is what they found funny. People who say it's a comedy, I don't know. But the movie starts with the wife waking up in the middle of the night, turning over, not seeing her husband laying next to her. Then she looks and she sees him sitting at the end of the bed. And she's like, honey? And all he says is, someone's inside. And then he immediately lays back down and goes to sleep. And she's like, what? And she's like pushing him and trying to wake him, and he won't wake up. And then you hear a banging noise out in, outside of their bedroom. She gets up to go, investigate and see what's going on out there. And she just sees the door is open and it's banging, end of story. But that's where it starts. The whole sleepwalking scenario starts occurring after that. She discusses it with him in the morning, and he's like, why would I say there's, someone's inside? And he's an actor. In this movie, he's an actor. And he was like, oh, you know what? That was a line that I had to say in the film that I was just shooting, and I was probably just asleep, and I was just repeating that line from the film. Then the next night comes, more sleepwalking occurs. She's like, look, we got to get some professional help. At one point, he tries jumping out of the window, which is really when things start ramping up. And she's like, no, this is not good. We got to get this taken care of. They go to a doctor. He explains some things, and he's like, here, we'll put you on this medication, but you also have to do this regimen of things, like no more alcohol. You have to go to bed at this time. No TV or phone before, such and such hours before you go to sleep. A lot of things to help someone sleep better. Like no taking naps, things that would help him go through the night. So they're tackling this together as a team, make sure he's taking his medication, making sure he's not drinking, all this kind of stuff. You can tell that the family unit is very important to them. They have a sign up on their wall that says something along the lines of, we can accomplish anything together. So they're doing this together. But things aren't necessarily getting better for them. All spoilers, by the way, potentially. All spoilers. Just if you want to watch this movie, do that first so that you don't get any spoilers. The wife's mother the whole time is kind of like, no, this is a spiritual thing. She's, very old school. She brings her daughter some talismans to put under the bed, and her daughter's just like, get that, away from me. We'll get this taken care of medically. We're keeping our regiment. Things seem to be getting better. Well, things aren't getting better. And the husband and the wife start looking into alternative medication. They say to the doctor, hey, we're reading about it, and this medication seems to be helping people in this area. And the doctor's like, look, it's a little too early to be switching medication right now. Let's just stay on this regimen a little bit longer just so we can confirm. And if it doesn't work at this point, then we'll switch you over to this new medication. At this point, the mother of the wife kind of takes things in her own hand. She has a spiritualist come over and take a look at the apartment while husband and wife are there. At this point, by the way, the wife has now given birth, and they have a newborn baby. The spiritualist comes in there. She's shaking bells. She's going through stuff, waving things around. And she says to the wife, you're living with two men. She's like, your husband is haunted. So essentially the spiritualist is saying that the husband is demon possessed. There's two men in this house, and she cannot exorcise this ghost unless she knows who it is. She needs to know the name of this ghost. And the wife is like, how am I supposed to know the name of the ghost? And the spiritualist is like, well, you're pretty. I'm sure you've broken a lot of men's hearts in your day. Why don't you figure out whose heart you broke, and let's see who it is that's haunting your husband. So the husband and the wife the spiritualist leaves with the mom. They give her the spiritualist gives them some talismans and is like, here, hide these in your house. And the husband and wife are kind of laughing about this thing. Like, okay, yeah, I'm haunted. But you can tell that it's taken root in the wife. And she starts writing a list of potential people that she's broken their hearts. They could be potentially, haunting them. And then she starts looking them up to see if any of them have died. Well, she gets through this whole list. of people, and none of them are dead. And she starts asking her husband, she's like, who do you think I could have, whose heart could I have broke? And he was like, I don't know. What about the guy before we got married? And she's like, yeah, well, I looked him up. He's still alive. And then the husband's like, wait, what? Then the husband is like, oh, wait, she's taking this haunting thing serious. This isn't just a joke to her anymore. She's actually looking people up. So now you can see they're not on the same page. Okay. And things start to slightly disintegrate, even though they keep calling back to the together we can accomplish anything kind of scenario. You can see that they're approaching it differently. The husband is still, going after the medical way, and the wife is starting to lose faith in that, and she's starting to go towards the spiritual direction. At this time, you can also see that the wife, she is losing sleep because she's afraid for her and her baby. She wants to stay faithful to her husband. She loves her husband. She doesn't want to kick him out of the house. She wants to try to work through this with him, but you can see it is taking a toll on her. And here's where you start thinking, maybe some of these issues are her. Maybe her lack of sleep. Maybe she's starting to mentally crack and making this worse than what it is. You don't know. Is this an unreliable narrator now? You're not totally sure. Is she making this worse than what it is? Is he getting better and now it has switched and she's the one who's causing the issues? It gets to a point where they start locking the husband. They agree that he will start locking himself in the bedroom at night and she will let him out in the morning. So she's staying away. She's researching things at night. She's freaked out. She's trying to protect her and her baby. He wakes up in the morning. He knocks on the door. He's like, I'm awake now. She unlocks the door and lets him out. He can see on her face that she looks really bad. And he's like, hun, you gotta sleep. So he like lovingly picks her up and he's like, here, you gotta go in here. He takes her, puts her in bed, wraps her up, and she goes to sleep. And as she's sleeping, she has this horrible nightmare that the husband has done something, has thrown the child away. And when she wakes up, she goes running out of the bedroom and she can't find her husband or the baby anywhere. She looks in the cradle. No one's in the cradle. She's looking around. She doesn't see. Then she starts freaking out and she starts looking at the refrigerator. She's like, oh, crap. He stuffed the dog in the freezer. What if he stuffed our baby in the freezer? So then she goes running over the freezer. She starts ripping everything out. She opens up the refrigerator. She doesn't see anything. She's just standing there. Like, where could the baby possibly be? And then you notice off behind her, there is a big pot on the stove boiling. And you see dread overcome her. And she looks at it and she runs over there. Now, this thing is boiling, has a top on it. She just grabs it barehanded, pulls it off. She's looking at, you see things bubbling up in it. It's very confusing. It's very confusing. She grabs the whole thing, pours it on the ground, and she's just like digging through it with her bare hands. The bathroom door open, and the husband come out, holding the baby. And he's like, what's going on here? And he runs over and he's like, honey, what are you doing? And he grabs her and he looks at her hands are all burnt from grabbing this, boiling water in these pans and stuff. And he puts her hands under the water and then he sees that everything's been pulled out of the refrigerator and he's like, oh my gosh. And he starts trying to clean things up. While he's doing that, she grabs the pot and she biffs him over the head, knocks him out, and she tapes him up. She's sitting on him. She has a knife to his throat. And she's like yelling absurd things at him. What is it you want from me? And things like that. And he's thinking she's freaking out. He's like, she's losing her mind. He's like, hun, we're getting through this, the medication. And she's treating him like he's a possessed man. And he's freaking out. Like, why is she doing this to me? She cuts his neck a little bit. He's freaking out. He's like, as you were asleep, I heard back from the doctor. He's going to switch us to the new medication now. We can get through this. I will somewhat stop telling you the movie at this point as to not spoil any kind of criticism for this movie other than it kind of being like, it's not very funny. Don't bill this as a comedy if it's not going to be funny. And I have noticed it in other Asian films. Sometimes they have a thought. They want the story to go in a certain direction, but they want to keep a secret. Instead of tactfully hiding that secret and getting you to a point, they will just take this very blunt approach and just leave you in the dark completely, where there are just missing chunks of time. And you're just like, well, what the heck happened? And that's kind of what happened here, in my personal opinion. Now, I would love, and I am not joking, if there's someone out there who watches this and has seen Sleep, and you thought that this was like amazing, or you feel that they portrayed situations way better than what I'm saying they did, I would love to hear from you. I would love to be able to talk about this movie with somebody. I don't have a lot of people in my sphere that enjoy Asian cinema. My sister does, but she doesn't like horror. If you have opinions about this movie, oh my gosh, I want to hear them. I want to know your thoughts. But anyway, I felt that there was just, there was too much of a, it's like they didn't even try. They're just like, and we'll just cut out this time period. We'll go from, the wife, almost killing her husband because she thinks he's possessed, to suddenly a new time period where you're like, wait, what happened? So you see the husband come out of treatment. It appears that he has now been committed to this doctor, and they have him hooked up to wires, and they're monitoring him, and they look at what his sleep patterns were before and what they are now on the new medication. And the doctor's like, look, man, this new medication is doing it for you. Look at your patterns before, look at you now. I would say that you're good. You're all good. So he seems like he's been discharged. But then where's the wife? He makes some comment about how she hasn't been doing well and she's been getting some treatment. Well, when did this happen? How long is the time period? And he's like, I'm going to pick her up. It's very just like, when did any of this happen? There's just a big chunk missing of when this occurred. So up to this point, which is 2/3 of the movie, I'm just kind of like, this is just a family dealing with an illness, a sleepwalking illness, and a legitimate concern on the wife's part that her and her child could be hurt from her husband in his sleepwalking. And also a concerned mother of the wife. It all makes sense. If you had a child, an adult child that was in this situation, you would be concerned too. And if you had a different thought, you would be like, hey, let's check out this. Maybe this will help. It all makes sense. But this time gap, no. It seemed lazy to me. And I don't have a better idea for how they could have gotten through that. I don't. So this third act, I'm ready to just be like, okay, this movie was just kind of whatever. I didn't feel like it was necessarily a waste of my time, but was it worth $7 rental fee? No. If I came across this for free on Tubi, I would have been much happier. The lighting, the cinematography is good, but it was nothing to write back home about. But then in the third act, things just go batshit crazy. And I was like, okay, this is good. But still not good enough for me to say to you, you need to watch this movie. It goes batshit crazy in comparison to the first two parts of this movie. But I still didn't feel like it went crazy enough. It definitely goes crazy, but not enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, it seemed like a sleeper movie. And then it just is like, what the heck, out of nowhere. It wasn't what the heck out of nowhere, but it was a nice, suddenly we're someplace, and suddenly now we're doing something crazy. They went a direction that I did not totally expect. It makes sense, but I did not expect. Some of the things that occur in that last part of the movie, this is another thing that kind of bothers me about Korean film or Asian films, is the things that they choose, this crazy stuff that they choose to do, have no real life ramifications for them within this story. Kind of like, I did a review of the Slit-Mouth Woman. In that movie, the Slit-Mouth Woman would essentially possess other women. She would use other women, transform, and then they would try to kill the slit-mouthed woman. And really all they did was just kill the possessed woman. So there's like this trail of dead women out there. And I'm thinking, okay, well, the cops are going to get involved at some point, right? Because you can't just go around killing a bunch of innocent people because they're possessed. And so now you have all these dead women and you have a bunch of kids that no longer have parents to take care of them. I'm like, where are the real life ramifications here? Well, the movie never addresses that. It just like, okay, this happens. Let's just push it into the closet and let's hope people forget about it just so that we can move on with this story. That's kind of what this movie does. Real life ramifications should occur by some of the choices. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they got out of that situation, the sleepwalking situation, in whatever way. You have to watch the movie. But now they have to deal with these real life ramifications of these choices they make that are insane choices. They can't just live out their life. They're not just like, oh, okay, we're past this, sleepwalking thing. Now our life can go on. Okay, you might be past that sleepwalking, but now you got to deal with the shit that you just did. They have real life ramifications with police and your life being ruined in other ways. But the movie just ends. It never addresses any of that kind of stuff. It just, let's do some crazy shit and that's just in the movie. And let's just hope people forget about that. I didn't forget about it. It annoys me a little bit. Even though, again, I like Asian cinema, those kind of things annoy me. Where they kind of, they knock out real life ramifications and are just for the sake of the story or entertainment or wherever. They also, just jump over things that should logically make sense, just again, so the story will progress and they can get to their surprise ending that really, if you addressed certain situations, would never occur because any smart person would have seen it coming a mile away. But they have to keep you in complete darkness so that you don't see it a mile away. In the end, what would I rate this? See, this is the thing. If you go on Rotten Tomatoes, this has like a 79% score, which is not an incredible score. 90 would be an incredible score, but 70, that's still in a, hey, you should probably watch this movie. It's great. I'm not going to say that at all. The ending was good, but again, I didn't think it went far enough. I'm going to have to give this, a 5 out of 10. And I know that's what the majority of my ratings have been. But I would say this is a better 5 out of 10 versus some of the other 5 out of 10s. And I don't even need to ask, would I watch this over Terrifier? Of course, I would, because Terrifier is trash. This movie is not trash. There's some things in it that could be done better, that could make it a fantastic movie. I personally don't know how they could do that, but it could have. There's definitely a way that this could have been far better than what it was. And I definitely wish I would have watched it with subtitles and not dubbed. The dubbed made that wife sound so whiny and frustrating. Had I watched it with the subtitles, I think it would have bumped my score up by 2 points. And I gave it a 5, so it would have been up to 7. And if I would have given it a 7, I would have been almost exactly in line with what Rotten Tomatoes is saying. So maybe it is a 7. Just don't watch the dub. Watch the subs. This is Judah. Thanks for watching.